Good morning and welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Joyce Thompson, one of the worship associates. We're so glad that you decided to join us today. Our wonderful consulting minister, Pastor Kris Cervantes, is back for today's service. Pastor Kris is a native Texan. She's a lifetime UU, and she always has something thought-provoking and inspiring to say. The topic of her service today is resilience, memory, and persistence. We can do hard things. Sounds very relevant to these times. Let's welcome Pastor Kris.
Our call to worship this morning is from former UUA President Bill Schultz. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart. As we light our chalice, I share these words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. So I've brought my stone chalice again, and we'll light it together. And we will let this flame continue throughout our time together.
This church, like all Unitarian Universalist churches, is founded on a shared vision rather than a required creed. We believe that every being on earth has inherent worth and dignity and deserves to be treated with kindness. We reaffirm these shared values every week by reciting our covenant aloud. Please join me now in saying, love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
I wrote this song 30 years ago so my friend Pat Lamana could give it this contemporary message. Gather in spirit, not face to face. Let's do what we can to flatten the curve. Wash your hands often and don't touch your face. This virus is something no one deserves. Gather on Skype, gather on Zoom, gather by phone with family and friends. Gather online, but don't leave your room. Let's all stay safe until this crisis ends. Gather on Facebook, but not for too long. There's so many ways to sweeten the time. Take up crochet, write a new song, read a good book, bake brownies sublime. Gather on Skype, let's all stay safe until this crisis ends.
This morning's message for all ages is called Tiny the God, a story written by Becky Brooks. It's an important story for today because, well, I bet you'll know why. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a tiny, little, itty-bitty, very small, tiny little god named Tiny. She lived her life hearing stories of all the big gods, and well, let's face it, she was jealous. She knew she needed to think of some kind of special spark of an idea that would make her existence meaningful. After watching humans a long time, she hit upon something that just might work. Something to make people think, yeah, that Tiny has really got a good idea going. This was it. This was going to make her famous. Are you ready? Are you ready? Here it is. You are not alone. She took the form of a very light breeze, and in a voice so quiet, each person heard it only in their mind, she said, "You are not alone. You are not alone." She took this, and people loved it, because who doesn't want to hear that? Pretty soon, Tiny was comforting people all over by whispering, "You are not alone." Every evening, she took the form of the breeze and whispered it into people's minds. And in the mornings, she would rise with the wind and do the same. Until one day, she encountered someone who wasn't comforted at all. When Miriam heard Tiny's words in her mind, instead of feeling comforted, she felt agitated. Something was just kind of off about it. She kept saying it to herself over and over again. "You are not alone. You are not alone." She tossed and she turned. She couldn't even sleep. And in the morning, she went to read the paper. But instead of skimming everything, she found herself drinking in every story. She was only halfway through when she found herself crying. "I am not alone," Miriam said. "I am connected to every one of these people. They live in my town and in my country and in my world. They love their children like I love my children. They're scared sometimes, and so am I. They hurt like I hurt. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I can help." Tiny was surprised. It hadn't occurred to her that someone might think of it that way. Tiny kept watch over Miriam to monitor this interesting development. Miriam and a coworker met online in a meeting and talked about a law that they hoped the Senate would pass. And Tiny noticed when Miriam wrote a letter to her senator about it right away. She noticed that when Miriam turned in her grocery order, she bought a few extra things for her neighbor and left them with a colorful note on her porch. She noticed that Miriam had tears in her eyes when she joined her congregation's worship on her computer, and she heard her favorite hymn through the small speakers. Miriam got out her phone and made an extra donation. She watched, Tiny watched, as Miriam wrote postcards to friends and family near and far, as she waved to the dog walkers who passed her house, as she strung up colorful lights in her living room window, and perhaps put a teddy bear there for neighborhood children on walks to find. But most importantly for Tiny, she noticed when Miriam received a phone call one evening from a friend she hadn't heard from in a long time. His voice was shaking. "I'm having a hard time," he said. He started to tell her about his troubles, but then he began to cry. Miriam put herself in her favorite, most comfy chair. Take your time. I'll stay on the line with you, she said. You're not alone. I'm here. I am here. Tiny heard those words like a tiny echo in her mind. You are not alone. I am here. You are not alone. I am here. Say it with me. You are not alone. I am here. In that moment, Tiny knew that she was nothing without Miriam's hands and her heart and her spirit. And she knew that what she wanted, what the world needed more than anything, was what Miriam had to give, what she had learned to give. So Tiny went to work. Instead of spending her evenings spreading the gospel of you are not alone, she spent her night times doing it too, and her mornings and her afternoons. Pretty soon she was spending every moment doing it until Tiny became the breeze itself. And that is why there are no paintings of Tiny the God. There are no busts or holy books, just a breeze, a little voice, and many, many helping hands, loving hearts, and caring spirits. You can hear the echo if you listen closely. You are not alone. I am here. Now you say it. You are not alone. I am here. At the bedside of a dying man, you are not alone. I am here. When water bottles are left in the desert for those who risk life to cross it, you are not alone. I am here. In the jailhouse, in the sanctuary, and today at home, you are not alone. I am here, separate and together. You are not alone. I am here. May it be so. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or the one single thought, but for deed on deed and thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Those are the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, and as we begin our pastoral prayer, I know that we are building a life worth living under these strange new circumstances. And so today I would like to just continue lifting up all those who are ill and the families who are grieving. We are past the 60,000 mark as of this reporting of deaths, and we have more than 1 million ill Americans with coronavirus. And of course, life goes on in other ways too. We have those who suffer from mental and physical illness, injury. We have the young and the strong who must remember to protect us, the older and weaker among them. We lift up those who are working on the front lines, the doctors and nurses and aides, the folks who are working in nursing homes and hospitals and grocery stores, and truckers who are putting their lives on the line and crossing the country back and forth with food to keep us all fed. All of these people, we hope and pray that the Spirit of life will sustain them and continue to help them endure as they help us endure. I'd like to lift up those who are families with kids at home. The school year is almost over. Oh, isn't that great news? But of course, I know it's difficult to be at home. No matter how much we all love each other, it's also good to have other people around. And so for those of us who have kids at home, I am sending out all the good energy for persistence and patience and love and humor. That's a huge one. And for all us kids that are stuck in home, I am sending patience and fun and a spirit of, when I get stuck, I go do something else and come back, but I don't give up. That's the main thing. We've all got to have some stick-to-itiveness right now. I'd like to lift up those who are working in local and state and federal government, as well as global leaders who are trying to do the best thing under really difficult circumstances. For those who are using this time to exploit others and to line their own pockets, I wish wisdom and I wish compassion would come to them like the ghost of Christmas past in the night. And so we will hold that prayer up as well. For each of you, whatever your experience of this change has been, know that you are not alone. I am here, as Tiny the God has said, and your other friends are as well. We are separate, but we are not alone. And that is the greatest prayer that I really want to just send out to all of you, is just know that although this time is hard and we are dealing with it in all kinds of ways, each of us as best as we can, I want you to know that although we are separate, you are not alone. Your community, UU community, is still here, waiting for you, listening to you, hoping and praying for you. And so please reach out if and when you need to. For all of these sorrows and all of the joys that we are also carrying, I invite you now to breathe in some peace with me. And let's breathe out love. So may it be. Amen. I'd like to begin this morning with words from James Baldwin. For nothing is fixed forever and forever and ever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. And after those words, these from Margaret Wheatley. She was writing about climate change, but these words apply equally or perhaps even more to this moment. We have never been here before in terms of the global nature of our predicament. And for the first time, we know what's happening to just about all 7 billion of us humans, the challenges and terrors we endure, and the occasional reaffirming triumphs. Never before have humans been so aware of one another's struggles, pain, and perseverance. Never before have we known so many of the consequences of what we do, our thoughtless, violent, heroic and loving actions. And yet, Wheatley goes on, we have been here before. In our long, mysterious history, humans have had to struggle with enormous upheavals, dislocations, famines, and fears. We've had to counteract aggression, protect our loved ones, and face the end of life as we've known it, over and over again. The scale is different now, but the human experience is the same, and so are our human spirits, capable of generosity or abuse, creativity or destruction, survival or extinction. As we face the challenges and struggles of this time, it might help to recall the centuries of solid shoulders that we stand upon. If you reflect on your own life experience, endured, you're still here. How did you stay here? How have you come through rough times before? What from your own personal history gives you now, the you of today, the capacity to get through this time? Here ends the reading. James Baldwin was a queer Black poet, author, and playwright from the South. Margaret Wheatley is a pioneer and innovator in systems theory, particularly the way community systems shape and are shaped by social change. She also studies for 2 months a year under Buddhist nun Pema Chodron, which only made me hate her just a little bit. Pure jealousy. Very different humans, James Baldwin and Margaret Wheatley, but both understand two fundamental truths of humanity. Wheatley through study, Baldwin through lived experience. Change is the only certainty, and we humans are fantastically adept at navigating and surviving change. Not always, granted. Lots and lots of our fellow humans have died along the long stretch of history, a history of changes, as Wheatley points out, and not all of them died of old age. But come what may, plague or meteorite or ice age or volcano or famine or drought or wild beast or insect or internal parasites, we have survived. In fact, we've gotten better and better at surviving. We are so good that there are more people alive today on the planet Earth than have died in the entire expanse of human history. We're living, though, in a time of unparalleled upheaval. Speaking only of our own country, more than 60,000 of our neighbors have died. More than 1 million cases of COVID-19 have been diagnosed. Schools are closed, children and grandchildren are at home. Workers are either struggling to survive as they are laid off or fired. Perhaps they're adapting to the new online normal, or perhaps they're risking their lives to keep our lights on, our food available, our garbage collected, and our very hearts and lungs still functioning. When have we lived through a time like this? I thought living through September 11th, 2001 would be the biggest generational landmark for me, for many of us. Of course, that day and the days following are still burned into my memory. I was pregnant with my first child. No, my second child. And my husband joined the military soon after 9/11. So it was a momentous event, not just for the world, but for me personally, and it directly changed my life. Now that child is 18 years old, and this is his first generational landmark. He's finishing his senior year at home. There's no prom, no senior day, no college signing day, no walking the stage. The coronavirus, I guess, is my second landmark. And I'm thinking now of my parents who also lived through Vietnam and the Kennedy assassination, and their parents who lived through the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the dropping of the first nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Every generation can attest to change. Slow and brutal, or quick and slow and subtle, or quick and brutal, pardon me. Our current situation, though, is sort of unimaginably enormous. And it is both quick and brutal and slow and subtle. Has it really only been 2 months? This is only our 8th online service together, but I've lived 10 years in that 8 weeks, and I bet you have too. This upheaval, this sea change, this human and natural catastrophe, yes, it is unprecedented, for me at least. And yet, as Wheatley reminds us, we've been here before. In our long, mysterious history, humans have struggled with enormous upheavals, dislocations, famines, and fears, over and over again. We have been here before. Not only in the vast transformations of culture, the generational landmarks of trauma and triumph, but in the simple, living of our own lives. Every life holds its own times of pain, fear, and grief. Suffering is inevitable, the Buddha claims, and I tend to agree. It's not everything, but it is inevitable. The scale is different, but our humanity is the same. Wheatley points it out too. Her thesis and mine, spoiler alert, is that our lived and survived experiences of grief, trauma, and pain might have given us the tools and the insights that can serve us well in this time of global pandemic. Now that all sounds great, but I want to take a quick sidebar here and lay to rest a very common and toxic mythology. This one that says things like, everything happens for a reason, or God never gives you more than you can handle, or what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Making or finding meaning from the pain we've experienced in life does not somehow make the pain okay, or justify it, or vindicate us in some sort of suffering Olympics. As we move forward together, whether we like it or not, we, as Unitarian Universalists, are called to remember that the ethic in which our faith is rooted sees all humans as worthy of love. If not ours personally, then at least the compassion of a just and loving universe and or God. The punishing and transactional petty God of certain religious understandings has been squarely rejected by our Unitarian and Universalist forebears, much to our relief. That God and that thinking, whether religious or secular, has no place in a healthy theology or value system. Okay? Okay. So back to those questions. The questions posed by Wheatley, right at the end of her reading. They're questions for us here and now. Here they are again in my own words. What else have you endured? And how did you endure it? What got you through the rough times before? If we can answer those questions individually and globally, but baby steps. But if we personally can dust off years of accumulated sediment and look at the feelings, responses, and resources that have, quite frankly, kept us alive so far, we may be able to navigate this particular time of pain better, which in turn makes us better equipped to help others. Because here's another spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. We can't and we won't get through this alone, and the people around us will not either. James Baldwin reminds us, generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. And this is right and proper and as it should be. Asking what you've endured may be the most personal question you've ever considered, but it's also a communal question, of course. For most of us, there are potent social forces that have shaped us and often led to pain and abuse. Race, gender, sexuality, ability, economics, social location. Each of us can think of some way in which we've been changed, often not for the better, by these embedded systems in our society. So if you're a person who has experienced a decrease in your physical health or capabilities, for instance, you've probably found that life has gotten more difficult. Our society isn't built for you. Everything from going to the restaurant to going to the restroom has to be navigated anew. I guess we'll get to those restaurants soon. Maybe. The small humiliations, though, the pitying or curious gazes of the able-bodied, those create socio-emotional pain, not just once, but again and again. So you can imagine that's just a good example, but you know how each of our social positions brings with it trauma or healing, pain or pain relief. Dealing with race in a white supremacist society, not just today, but for the past 400 years. Being queer in a heteronormative culture that punishes sexual difference. Being poor in a capitalist consumerist society that not only urges you to buy, but denies you basic support such as healthcare and housing. And don't forget, we're told to buy, to ease our pain, to forget about it, to deny it, to replace it. But it's a peculiar and individualistic solution, and it never works for long. So that's the social side of personal suffering. It's a vital facet of our faith movement that's dedicated to mitigating those social and communal failures. Personal suffering is informed and shaped by those social forces. But of course, going bigger as we go more intimately, we know that pain can also result from plain old bad luck, from poor decision making. God knows I've made bad decisions. From external factors that we can't control, such as illness, hello, coronavirus, and from the families that we're born into. Personal suffering, whether or not it's linked to culture, is much more intense, of course. When Meg Wheatley asks us, what have you endured? Social trauma informs our answers, but the answers are all permanent. But the answers are all personal. I have led a mostly charmed life by almost any standard. I'm white, college educated, the child of economically stable, college educated parents. I have 2.5 children, a marriage that has happily endured for 24 years in June. I have health care and a career in a field that I'm passionate about and happy in. So like I said, it's been a pretty charmed life. Ooh, excuse me. But I have experienced pain along the way, and I know you have too. I won't share all my personal traumas here because nobody needs that on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much. But I do want to lift up one particular event in my own life as an example. It was the death of my father, John Novus, in 2018. My dad's death was the closest, most intimate loss that I have ever experienced. We were exceptionally close friends, and we had a wonderful relationship. We saw each other at least weekly, often several times a week, just for company, just to go out and grab coffee together or to talk about a book or a movie. When he died that October, I experienced grief like I had never experienced it before. It was one of the most life-changing and painful ordeals that I have ever endured. Now, confronting our own pain isn't easy. I am personally a level 30 laser lotus guru master at avoiding my suffering, also known as an Enneagram 7 for those who like that kind of thing. I pay professionals to force me to face my pain. It's been the pattern of my whole life. Comfort others in their pain, but never admit, even to myself, that I have pain. But when my father died, I lost that ability. There was no possibility of avoidance. There were no coping skills or self-talk patterns or escape mechanisms that could stand up to that overwhelming tidal wave of grief that just smashed down and wrecked me. And it did. But I had good friends and good counseling and a good doctor. For 6 months, I sat in therapy weekly and cried for an hour. And of course, there was a lot of crying for the rest of the week too. And I wondered aloud during that time about the meaninglessness I felt, the emptiness and sorrow. It hurt so much, and I was so traumatized that I couldn't find any meaning in it. I just didn't have the capacity at the time. Beyond the most intense, immediate grief, though, after that 6 months had passed, and ever since, I began trying to fit together the stories and the feelings into some kind of cohesive thing. Not quite a narrative, not quite a tidy list of lessons learned, definitely not any real answers, God knows. But meaning, deeper compassion. Remember, the root of the word compassion is to suffer with. I know better how to suffer with you, with the world, and with myself. I'm no expert. I don't know that I'll ever stop learning or making meaning from my grief. But there are also and already transformations in my life and in the ways that I encounter the world. One moment, please. I just want to introduce you to my companion who just came up. So if you hear a little humming, it's him purring. This is Lefty. He's a very good kid. He wanted to come up in front of the camera. So as I say, that grief at the moment felt empty and meaningless. But in the time since, I have continually processed and thought and worked to make sense of it, to make some kind of meaning. And it has changed me. There is transformation in my life and in the ways that I encounter the world. I did learn things, and I do have new resources for facing present and future grief. As long as I can remember what those resources are, I find that it is helpful to write them down. And I did think about this as I wrote. Friends, community, counseling, music, family, meds, meditation, self-compassion, movement, nature. But that's just a brief list. There could be so many more words. There would be names on my list and emotions. If I added to the list every day, some words would get bigger and bolder. They'd appear again and again, like in a word cloud. And those big, bold words, that's where I might find the answers to Wheatley's questions. How did I get through these times before? How will I do it again? What are your words? Is it community? Is it counseling? Is it music? Is it nature? Is it your pets? Is it self-compassion? Is it athleticism? What is it? It could be 1,000 things for you. It could be the names of books. It could be movies that have affected you tremendously, or events in your life. So what would your word cloud look like? Whose names would appear there? What values would be there? What emotions and resources? As I was thinking about my list, I did do a word cloud, actually. There's a website that's called www.wordclouds.org. Oh, no, .com, wordclouds.com. And you can go and make your own for free. So I've printed mine out and stuck it on the wall beside my desk. What you might do with that, I leave to you. And so as we are coming to the close of this reflection, I do want to share just one more quote. Now this is from Kama Shadron, the Buddhist nun who Margaret Wheatley gets to study with yearly, who I have read most of her works and I truly admire her. She writes, "Let the hard things in life break you. Let them affect you. Let them change you. Let this pain be your teacher. The experiences of your life are trying to tell you something about yourself. Don't cop out on that. Don't run away and hide under your covers. Lean into it." It's not easy advice. It's not easy to face our pain, whether it's in the past or right now. It's almost impossible without other human beings. I am sure there are a few desert mothers and fathers who managed, but I never met them. By holding the suffering that we have experienced up to the light of our own gaze, we begin finally to heal. And in the process of healing, it's we who choose what meaning our pain has held, and we who decide how pain will shape and transform us. We can also choose, I haven't talked about this, but we can, and we all know, we can choose to learn nothing from our pain. But I think the lesson of that for me has been, as a consistent avoider, it always catches up and it doesn't fix the problem forever. So take care of yourselves. If you need to escape, go for it for a while. If you need to wallow, go for it for a while. But don't stay gone from your own life for too long. Remember James Baldwin, the sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. We are a people of light. And by the flame of our chalice and the kindled promise and challenge of every day, we will continue to share our words, our strength, our compassion, and our struggles with one another, that the light may spread as we move forward into the unknown new world we will be shaping together. So be it. Amen.
Though we've been unable to hold services in our building for the past 2 months, our church community and its mission remain strong. Groups and committees have continued to meet thanks to Zoom. The community garden's going on, and last weekend they were able to send 49 pounds of produce to God's Pantry. You know, they needed that help. We stay connected through our website and our Facebook page, and members who need support can receive it from Pastor Kris or by contacting the caring committee at ecares@communityuuchurch.org. In these difficult times, our congregation and our community need our help and our donations more than ever. You can donate online by going to our website, communityuuchurch.org, and clicking the blue donate button. Once you've done that, you can decide whether you want to give an unrestricted donation or designate it for the minister's discretionary fund, which is used to help fellow congregants, or for the monthly share the plate. Once you've decided what you want to do, don't forget to click the submit button. We thank you so much for gifts given and received.
One of the most powerful ways the church offers us an opportunity to be one with another is through the power of music. David Frazier wrote a song he calls "I Need You to Survive." And I'd like to say that as we endeavor to be a community standing together, affirming the worth and dignity of Black lives, we must enter the songs of Black lives with humility, curiosity, and first, we must endeavor consciously to resist the temptation to colonize it with the changes that make us more comfortable inside of it. If we can be present to Black faith and Black faiths, then in solidarity we might enter into the blessed relationship that allows us to deserve to be called allies. In this sense, Sing this song with me with curiosity, with humility, and with joined faith. I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. Listen, I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to. Let's sing together. I pray, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I love you, I love you, I need you, I need you. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. You pray for me. I love you. somebody else. You are important to me. You are important to me. Tell two more people, you are important to me. One more time, you are important to me. Important to me. I need you, sir. We have to say.
For our benediction, I bring you the words of Laura Lynn Bellamy. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that the dreams may come true. And if you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. Go in peace, stay safe and stay healthy. And remember, you are separate from me, but neither of us has to be alone. Amen.